Hi, I'm Dr. Lori Moore. Today we're going to explore the possibility of limitless relationship. As a psychotherapist for many years, I realized that what people explore and what they question puts limits on what they are able to experience. We are going to work with couples today who are going beyond questions regarding problems and conflicts, and who have chosen to expand their relationship into limitless conditions of joy, ecstasy, nurturing, care, communication. I have found that there are three important elements that put a couple in a position to do this. Number one, compatibility. When major compatibility issues are at play, they require a lot of energy, and there is an ongoing sense of conflict. So if you are in a relationship where there are compatibility issues, you can still use these tools and make the most of them. However, if you are still in the exploration stage, I recommend that you take into account compatibility before making a commitment to a partner. Each of these couples has determined that they are compatible according to the 7 areas of compatibility. The second item that makes these couples able to enter the domain of endless joy, love, compassion is this. Each person involved in the relationship is willing to take full responsibility for her or his own role. They are not attending psychotherapy to blame each other. Each of them sees the relationship as a valuable mirror where their strengths and weaknesses show up. And each member of these couples knows that when a weakness shows up, it is an opportunity for them to address themselves and make a change so they can be happier. When we try to change our partners, we become more miserable. And when we use any information that we are feeling upset as a reason to change ourselves, we have opportunities to become happier than ever before. These couples have agreed to do that. Watch what happens to them. Third, these couples are asking questions that allow them to go into domains of great gratitude, love, and expansion. They're not asking, how can I change my partner? Or what's wrong with this relationship? Or why am I so miserable? They're asking, how can I take my happiness and live in it consistently? How can I take any limit I've imposed on my own joy and let it go? Please come and experience the journey of these 3 couples and allow yourself to be inspired and take what you learn into your own relationship.
Before the body, before the story, before the name, beyond the mind's attempt to find or explain.
So what I'd like to do is just start by having people have an opportunity to share where you've been in your relationship, where you are now. So where you've been and where you are now, and that can mean anything to you. That might mean emotionally, that might mean mentally, that might mean spiritually, but it's just your time to share that in whatever way it means to you, whatever you feel like sharing.
Before I met Edward, I was with a friend and saw this most gorgeous sunset. And I had this yearning to be with someone that I could share this with, that I loved, who loved me. And it really wasn't long before Edward came along, 20 years ago. And it felt like such synchronicities were happening when we met. We met at a workshop called Creating Sacred Space. And it was sort of amazing that both of us got there. Both of us could have not been there. It was close for me not to be there. And when we were there, it just became clearer and clearer. It was that we were meant to be together. It felt like, and it was Sunday when we were getting ready to go home, and I wanted to see Edward the next day. And the part of my brain, the conditioned part of my brain, said, "Oh, you should at least wait a week." I mean, but I thought, no, I want to see Edward tomorrow. So I asked Ed, and Edward did come, And
Only live 90 miles away.
and then it was like we said our vows to each other 10 days later. It was,
Wow.
and it was like, it just, all the synchronicities felt very important. Then, as we progressed, we had a number of like fabulous, it felt like years, and our things, it felt like things that I needed to learn, both of us needed to learn, sort of surfaced, and I didn't feel like I knew how to handle that. So we separated for 6 years, divorced and separated. And then I saw this gorgeous moon rise, and I had this yearning to see Edward. And so, anyway, then we got back together, and it was sort of obvious then. It's like we sort of meant to be. It feels like ups and downs and learnings, and I feel like for me personally, we're in a good place.
Before the breath, beyond the sense of pleasure or of pain.
Did inspire something in me, which is that I wouldn't let my cat out at after sundown because I didn't want him to get hurt by the coyotes again. And he told me one day that he needs to go out at night because the cat's job is to talk to the moon.
Oh.
And I had heard this from Ed about the moon, and so I reflected upon that story you told me, and I realized how important it was, and that I had to treat my cat like an individual and not think, oh, he's my cat, you know?
Yeah.
And how important it is to talk to the moon. And I always remember that story about how when you saw the moon, it brought you back to Ed, and it has touched me many times. I think about it a lot. Yeah, so thank you.
The joy of being together was just monumental for me. And we were not apart after I went to see her that Monday. And I don't know, I think we slept in every conceivable bed that was available in the east and in the west over the first few months. And so there was this very strong bond. But like any relationship, I think, you can get mired up in detail and in reflecting on the past. The sense of repetition sometimes leads to boredom. And it's a real waste of time to be bored. So we allowed that to happen to us. And I didn't want Mackie to leave, but the tradition was that whatever the person wanted, you let them do what they want to do. And so that's what happened. And I was happy when she saw the moon and told me about it, but we had a little difficulty getting back together. And but when I saw her in her living room, you know, all that 6 years just melted away, and we were new to each other. It was like, I don't like to use a Christian expression, but it was like we were reborn. A much broader statement than that anyway. And so we've been together now for, what, 1.5 years? And it's been splendid. Oh, sure, we have our rocky ways. And as we begin to learn that the moment's all that counts, and what happened before is just water in the dam. I catch myself fairly often still in reflecting on the past and not living in the moment. But I'm catching myself a little sooner. We want to adhere more to the law of attraction.
We've only known each other since April 29th, so it's like 9 weeks today that we met. And we met in sacred space also. Friends had been wanting to fix us up, and they were waiting till I had cleared a relationship that I'd been in that I was pretty unhappy with, but was working out some kind of karmic lessons or something. And they brought Terry to my Passover Seder, and it was a very special place, and got to anoint each other with water, with flowers, and got the jasmine here, because I put jasmine and roses in the water to wash our hands to kind of be part of the sacred space. And it was very nice to have that connection and be with friends and do ritual. I think what I've been learning in this short time together is very much the power of attraction and the power of finding someone that I feel matches me in many ways and encourages my happiness. I was very unhappy, as I said, in the last relationship. There was a lot of arguing, a lot of passion, but kind of that negative passion that's addictive, I think. And I feel like there's a lot of passion here, but it's toward happiness and laughter and playfulness and a lot of mental, intellectual stimulation and dancing, just a lot of fun. And so it's very healing to my heart. I had actually had, earlier in the day before I met Terry, had a very sacred experience too, in that I do acupuncture and I also receive it, and I got a very special treatment from one of my teachers and students at the school where I teach at 5 Branches, where they did a clearing energetically because they had been following over the years this past relationship, and they did a bunch of points to open my heart. And I wasn't intentionally looking for a new relationship, I was just open, and I was very surprised and was willing to meet Terry not just as a potential relationship but as a new friend, because she was moving to Santa Cruz this fall, and so her friends wanted to introduce her to someone that knew a lot of people, which is me. So it was quite a surprise that I fell in love with her, and it happened pretty quickly that that we flew into love with each other, and we can tell that part of the story if you'd like. So I just felt like there was a lot of healing of trusting that I could open my heart again and not have it be continually bruised. And we haven't really had any big fights, but we had a couple of little bumps, and I felt the way that Terry was with me has been very healing, that I can have a disagreement or a challenge or potential conflict, and it can be resolved in a very non-conflictual way. And I have lots of concerns about boredom, so I've made sure that I try not to be bored, but I have a Gemini moon and she's a Gemini, so that we both sort of are on that track of liking to try new things. And when I called her from the workshop here and said, would you like to do this, she just immediately said yes, which was also a very healing experience for me. So I'm having fun, and I think that if there's anything that I can think of to work on is something we've been talking about, is how we handle stress, so that if we do get into a stressful situation, both in a lot of transition, that we handle it lovingly and peacefully. The more skills we have to do that, the better for everybody.
I was noticing when you shared that you're all there. Like you jumped in with your hopeful self to this relationship, but not in a kind of fantasy way. You jumped in fully present and available to find out what it is. Like you're not wasting 1 second of your precious life, and that's really touching me. So thank you.
Well, I'm just noticing the sun's coming out, which is really great, and
Oh, yeah.
yeah, and it's like Mariposa is like sunshine in my heart, yeah, and that's I was, let's see, well, she kind of already shared how we connected, but kind of where I was before that is that I was single for about 4 years, except for a brief reconnection with an ex for about 6 months, but realized that we were really just friends who just fell in love and really just were meant to be friends. And actually that's kind of the past history of most of my relationships, is that I have these wonderful loving connections with my friends, and sometimes we fall in love with each other, and then we try to make it be a relationship, and because I do want my partner to be my friend too. And it's been painful for me to try to have something be something that it's not, which is a life partnership for me, which is what I've always longed for. It's always been my intention. And so I've been completing a doctorate program, and 2 years of it I was involved with somebody who's my housemate right now and really a good friend of mine. I was in not only emotional pain but a lot of physical pain, and then I've been single for 4 years and have just been feeling alone in my spirit and in my heart, and wanting to share sunsets and moons rising with someone. So I was actually doing some very intentional visualizations around like my life partner, like just prayers, like if I'm supposed to be with somebody, either let me be peaceful alone, or and take away this longing that I have to share, or bring her or him. I was open in, and I had this picture of somebody hugging me from behind. I was visualizing that with my grandfather and my sister and another friend of mine, like in front of me. I was completely surrounded by support as I'm completing my doctorate program and my life's work, and moving to the next level. And then I got introduced to Mariposa, and I mean, I hope she is that life partner. I mean, it feels like there's a great connection. And she likes to hug me from behind. And she's a great hugger, and loves to communicate, and like is so loving. I can tell she introduced me to all these people that she knows in Santa Cruz, and I can see that they really love her and she loves them. And so there's this shared affinity that we have for a love for people, and generosity, and we're both the same type on the Enneagram. I don't know if you're familiar with that, which is the 2, the helper and the giver. And it helps a lot because I understand the gifts of the 2, but also the challenges of the 2 as well, overgiving. We've been teasing each other about being helpaholics sometimes, the challenges of giving too much advice and all that, but it's all with love and humor, and being patient, and the few bumps. The only challenge for me that I see is that politically, that I'm what I call a humanist, and she says she's like more like a feminist. So just wanting to be more open-hearted, also accepting her where she is and meeting her, and not and just being loving in that. But that's really been like kind of the only kind of bumps we run into. Because she made a comment to me, and then I'll end on that. She is standing up for the oppressed and protecting women and children, which I'm for too. And she said, well, if we're all in a boat and there's only room for so many, then I choose to have the women and children. And I said, well, let's just build a bigger boat. And so she was open to that, and so that's
Tell
what I'm
them your new strategy for helping me when I'm getting politically out of line.
I don't remember. What?
She just starts kissing me and asks me if I'd rather be right or happy. That's right.
That's so good.
Yeah.
2 of you are going to be the voices of that it's okay to be vulnerable, to go through new spaces, to feel comfortable and all that. And 2 people are going to be the voice of criticism, because what I notice, because I have a very strong voice of criticism, it just never shuts up. Never. So I just say thank you for sharing, but I'm not paying attention to that. And can. What I noticed is that what it does is it keeps me from being vulnerable when I'm afraid I'll be really hurt. And then if I just stop it and I sit there, like all of a sudden when I hear it, I'm not Dr. Lori Moore. I'm just like really little kid. I'm really scared. And there's nothing that could soothe me because something's new and it's vulnerable. And so when I don't let that voice talk, I have to feel that vulnerability and I have to trust in a new way. So that's a little key about the voice of criticism. Yeah, that may or may not fit for you. You can just get into that. Okay, but who would like to be the voice of criticism? We need 2 critics who'll just, let you know what's wrong with you, what's wrong with her, what's wrong with the relationship, what's wrong with everyone. The political views are wrong, all kinds of things. Yeah.
I was gonna stick to that.
Okay, can I have 2 critics? Okay.
You gotta be critical.
Okay, so Rick and I will both be critics. Can I have 2 people that think it's okay to just experience whatever's coming up, that all is well, that all is good? Mackie and Lori. Ed, what you're going to do is you're just going to be Mary Pose's support person, and you're going to stand right by her like her angel. Yeah, and you help her make the best choices, and you whisper in her ear support to make the best choices. Let's bring out the costumes. If anyone would like a costume, and use whatever you want, there's all kinds of stuff.
You just got out of a relationship, and now you're jumping into another one, and you guys really don't know each other that well, and it's always great at the beginning.
That's true.
Endorphins.
Main thing is happiness. Yes. Yeah.
So now what? So you get into this, and then what?
That's a good point. What are you going to do when the endorphins run down? The honeymoon's over, then what?
Keep dancing.
Dancing. What are you going to...
Am I supposed to be being critical, or am I moving out of critical?
You have to go wherever you go, naturally. You're seeing where you're going to go. You decide.
Just feel the joy.
Yeah, I'm feeling the joy.
Yeah, everyone feels the joy when they're on a honeymoon.
Yeah.
And the
But-
sunsets and
Honeymoons
the
can last
romance.
forever.
Right. What if she finds out who I really am and doesn't really like who I really am?
That could probably will happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because she's going to see where all the bones are buried. She's really going to find out what you really
Yeah.
like.
So what if she feels closed in and strangled and
Yeah, why would you want to go out with a closed-in strangled person?
Yeah.
I would get out what you can.
Yeah, just
well, what if she feels closed in by
Yes.
me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, that would be even worse. She feels closed in and you're the one at fault.
Yeah.
Get out.
she might judge. She might judge you.
Yeah, yeah. What if I'm judged for who I really am and it doesn't measure up?
You can see what a wonder she is.
Yeah.
And she sees the wonder in you.
Yeah. She must have X-ray vision, huh?
Yeah.
Or she sees from the heart.
Oh,
How do
The
you
Little
know?
Prince.
She sees from the
How do you
heart.
know? Maybe she's putting on an act. It's only the nice week.
You on here building a big? Was she a carpenter? What? Building a big boat? What is that?
Building a big
That's not true.
Yeah, I want to make sure that I stay in my own beliefs and not get pulled aside, but be open
To
to,
stay with God.
yeah.
Yeah.
And God would want me to be
course.
open.
How do you know? Have you
Open.
met the guy?
This is a
God.
place to
Have you met the
experience
woman?
life fully.
Which God are you talking about?
God, we're bringing God into this now. What's?
We'll bring God
Oh my
into
God,
it.
there
Well,
you-
God
there you
is
go
in
again.
I want to bring God into the
Well, that's
relationship.
great, but it's your relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about the house you're trying to sell? You have practical
I
matters.
believe she'll help me with that.
Do
She
you really have
inspires
time
me.
for this? Do you really have time for this?
Oh, yes.
You think about
Yes,
what
you
about
gotta stop and smell
what about all the I'm a critic, remember? What about and I like flowers too. But what about all the commitments you made and all the plans you had for your life?
Yeah.
Now you're gonna bring someone else in?
Yeah, because I
It
want to
all-
make a commitment to her sharing my life. Can you handle me with my
Let's just all end it by sending them some good energy that this
Yay.
will continue.
That's so good. What I found is, as I was criticizing in behalf of Mariposa, a lot of those things that I was saying were things that I've thought in the past and felt in the past, in relationships, in relationship in general, and it's kind of it's hard to believe that it could be greatness sometimes in my experience, and in the beginning of relationships, there's always that element of infatuation and wonder and possibility, and that's the actual greatness, and that's the gift, and that's the joy. And then what happens for me is, there's the little angel and the devil on the shoulder, and then what if, all the what ifs. So as I was saying that, these things that come up for me, that I'm happy to say moving past, constantly with velocity.
Yeah, I noticed when I had to be the critic that I felt literally sick. It really made me sick, and I realized how every choice we make, every intention we set, every moment has a big impact on our experience, like instantly, physiologically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen that be demonstrated with muscle testing. If you ask people to say something like, I love cats, like really strong, and you say, I hate cats, and weaken. Or just any hate.
Yeah. The reason that I brought the animals so much into my work is because they operate solely out of intention. So they're not thinking about what if this doesn't happen. There's nothing in their reality about what did not happen. That's not a reality to them. It's what am I creating now? And I find that when I use them as my role models and keep returning myself to what am I creating right now, I stay energized, I stay empowered, I stay happy, I'm in a place that I can create the circumstances I like a lot more easily. And if there's a circumstance that doesn't match my expectation, I'm in such a good state of power that it kind of loses significance. I'm more into the intention. And when I fall back and I go into what if, how can this, then I lose it all. I don't feel good. Physically, don't feel good. Yeah. So what we'll be working with a lot today is intention. Yes.
I can identify a lot because I've had to deal with so much criticism of myself and criticism of a lot that's out there. And dealing with that, it helps me a lot with that. For instance, I was being critical yesterday, and it was something that was very difficult for me, and it said, what about the gratitude? What about being grateful because this particular person has a lot of positive qualities that I am grateful for. So that helped change it for me. The main thing that I found recently that helps me is when I'm feeling negative or critical of myself or anything else, is to say, what do I want? And that sort of does magic. Because Ed and I were in this big argument, and we said, well, what do we want? And it changed it right away. And I'm so grateful just to know that, because as you were saying, then the vibration within me, I started feeling good.
Yeah.
Because we can't feel good and bad at the same time, sort of. It's like, but the whole, I'm struck with how critical, how much that criticism can come up for me, and I guess it's always really for me, but sometimes it shows up out there. But it's really me, or I don't think I'd be critical.
Yeah, thank you. Since criticism is an issue for so many of us here today, what I'd like to ask you all to do is, if you notice it coming up, stop yourself and check in with your body and see what else is going on. Because once again, as in my case where I found out it was my way to avoid vulnerability, there's something else going on with you that doesn't feel too comfortable, and that's why you go into your head like that. So take a moment, and if you feel brave, just say, I'm experiencing my criticism, I'd like some support, I'm going to check in with myself right now, and we'll just stop the workshop and be there with you and I will facilitate it so you can explore that more for yourself.